What's going on, everybody? C4, welcome back to the channel. And the 2023 NFL Scouting Combine has completed. We got to see some freaks on absolute display. Nolan Smith, Anthony Richardson, was Bijan Robinson, absolutely crushed it. A lot of the corners, Kalijah Cansey, some big-time risers, so it's a perfect time to do a brand new mock draft. I was going to do a 2-round mock instead of a 1, but my kid's homesick from school today with a little bit of a stomach bug. He's down for a nap, so I just... First round, for sure, we can get in, and then maybe next week or something like that, we could do a 2-round mock draft and just really hit home runs on all the needs. There will be trades to this mock draft, and I will say this, I drafted this one. Sometimes there's different context to how I'm drafting. Sometimes it's like a predictive mock draft, or I'm going to try to guess where the teams are going to pick. This mock draft here, I just kind of went through it. I was like, I'm picking for each team. If I was trying to do what I thought was best for each one of these teams, that's what I did. So maybe I went off the board a little bit. Maybe I didn't go with a super popular pick. I'll be able to justify it because it's what I would do in that given situation. So let's start this mock draft off. First things first, it's pretty clear and obvious that the Chicago Bears are open to dealing the 1-1. And I'm going to have the Indianapolis Colts trade up. They're going to trade the 4th pick, a first rounder. We can't add much more, but I think, it seems you're going to get 3 first-rounders. So the Colts are going to get their first-rounder this year, their first-rounder in 2024, their first-rounder in 2025 to move up to 1-1 to select Bryce Young. I don't necessarily think they've done the best job hiding who they want. Irsay's been out there kind of gassing up Bryce. That's the pick I would make anyways. If I'm the Colts and I'm at 4, I don't really care how many draft picks it would take. I'm not too concerned about Bryce Young's size. I think, I think I saw a stat too. He only has like 1 batted ball at the line of scrimmage because, really that's the big knock. If your size concerns, he doesn't get hit. He's smart enough to move out of the way like Kyler Murray. So then he'd be like, well, can he see over his offensive line? Is he going to have, Drew Brees got by pretty fine, I think, when all said done. It's not a concern for me. He's the best quarterback in the class. He's easily between the ears the best quarterback in this year's draft class. And you're giving up, future assets, right? You're giving up another first, 2 firsts, maybe more, who knows? But then you got to just kind of make the argument, where does Bryce Young stack up against the future quarterback classes? And next year you got, the USC quarterback, you got Drake May, Caleb Williams. He's right there. Bryce Young still debatably could be the first quarterback next year. He would be, in the conversation for first quarterback 3 years down. So it doesn't really matter how much assets you give up. You got to get your guy, and I feel like Bryce Young can be the guy there for the Colts. Houston at pick 2, get their new quarterback in C.J. Stroud. I did think for a second here, Anthony Richardson. I don't know where my quarterback rankings are going to fall. I'm going to start having those pop up on my Patreon, and that eventually will turn into YouTube content. I don't know who I have as my quarterback 2 right now. I think there's an argument for both. I think for how impressive Anthony Richardson was athletically testing, which was expected, I think C.J. Stroud was as impressive during the drills. A lot of scouts are saying that was some of the best throwing drills they've ever seen at the Combine. C.J. Stroud is legit, and I just feel like if you need the safer pick, if you need the guy that's going to be able to for sure contribute sooner than later, which, again, that's why it made it a little bit weird for Houston. Because I'm sure if Houston wanted Anthony Richardson, you could go Davis Mills for the first half of the season or whenever you think Anthony Richardson has grasped the playbook and is ready to go. So it's not like Houston doesn't have anything at quarterback, but safer pick for a franchise that I just think Houston at this point, they should probably just try to play it safe, try to go with the higher probability because they got to turn that franchise around. Might have a better shot at doing that with C.J. Stroud. Pick 3, we have the Arizona Cardinals on the clock, and the vibe I get from most Cardinal fans is the most desired move here is not a player. It's like, all right, well, how far is Jalen Carter going to fall? Will Anderson, Tyree Wilson could be interesting for Arizona. I'm actually going to have them trade, which is what it seems a lot of fans want them to do. So they're going to trade back from 3, and the team that I have moving up, not a huge move up, are the Vegas Raiders. They're going to trade pick 7. They're going to trade a 2nd-round pick and a 3rd-round pick next year to move up a couple spots, and we did a video about this. They're going to get Anthony Richardson out of Las Vegas. Here's kind of what I'm thinking. I think the Raiders, you get Jimmy Garoppolo, 1-year deal, 2nd-year option or something like that, just to be your safety net, your placeholder, your bridge quarterback, and then you just get a freak like Anthony Richardson as your developmental guy. I think maybe I'm thinking too much into this. Well, we know they need a quarterback. Derek Carr today has gone off to the Saints, and actually tonight I'm going to burn the midnight oil and probably try to record a Saints Derek Carr rebuild. But they need a quarterback. I don't think you're in Las Vegas. You're a brand new team. Vegas, I think it's fair to say that they're going to be like, the novelty is going to wear off of having a new team, and they're going to need, a lot of people have always made this assumption that like Vegas is going to be a fair weather city. They'll go when it's a good team, and when it's a bad team, maybe it won't be the best. It'll be more so traveling fans, something to do, go to Vegas for the weekend. So I just feel like Las Vegas needs to continue to make big-time moves. You made Devontae Adams last season. That gave him a little bit of a bump. Didn't work out because Derek Carr is a mid-quarterback. He's not a bad quarterback. He's not a good quarterback. Sometimes he plays great, but it's not really consistent enough. Get someone that can be a potential true superstar. And you look at the pieces that are around there in Las Vegas. I say this as a Florida Gator fan. The only way Josh McDaniels is getting these head coaching jobs is because there's offense. Because, can you replicate Tom Brady and the success of the Patriots? Okay, prove it. Here's a quarterback that needs some work, needs some smoothing out around the edges. What do they have on offense? Well, as it stands right now, there could be some moving pieces. You got Darren Waller, who's a great tight end. You got Hunter Renfrow, great slot wide receiver. You have Devontae Adams, who might be the best wide receiver in the NFL. Josh Jacobs, one of the best running backs in the NFL. The pieces are around, and the situation would be around Anthony Richardson, that he could succeed. That is a big thing for Anthony Richardson wherever he goes. And I say this as someone that's a super Anthony Richardson fan. I'm biased. He's Florida Gator. He was awesome. Superstar. But he's going to have to go to a place where he's going to have some help early on because it's going to take him a little bit to get up to speed. He definitely is going to have a little bit of a learning curve. There's going to be some growing pains. But he is the highest ceiling player in this entire draft, regardless of position. And he's the highest ceiling player at the most important position. So it's going to be a premium. And I think Las Vegas is a very good landing spot. And the fact that you can move up those amount of spots, and I looked at the trade value, I'm almost pretty sure it won't cost you 2 firsts to make that kind of leap. I would do it. And I think a lot of Raider fans have kind of come to the conclusion, and do it for Al Davis. Al Davis would make this trade in a heartbeat. All right, now we're up at pick number 4 of the Chicago Bears, and I'm going to have them get Jalen Carter. This is the wild card. This is a guy that's like, if you're trying to like make a 100% accurate mock draft, no one knows what's going to happen with Jalen Carter right now. If I was the Bears and Jalen Carter's still at 4, I'm still probably taking him. He made a mistake. What he did is it wasn't. I don't know what this. It's one of those things where like it was a mistake. It was a. There's no justifying the context of it and making it a lesser deal than what it is. It's a terrible thing, but it was more of like a one-off. Like I don't think it's a repeatable burn his character down type mistake. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't think you're gonna. I don't want to make any jokes here, but there's context of certain things that can knock people down draft board. Then again, I probably still would have drafted Larry Tunsilhau, even with the gas mask stuff that came out. So for me, I'm not going to completely write off Jalen Carter. Got to still have to wait for more information to obviously come out about that situation because, maybe there's going to be a reason, in my opinion, that I will, you got to kind of drop that guy down your boards a little bit. But as it stands right now, I still think you go that direction for Chicago. We have Seattle at pick 5. I did think about trading down, but they do need some edge help. I'll have them get the alien Will Anderson. I know that there's a little bit of momentum right now that Tyree Wilson might be the first true edge rusher off the board. I'm not buying. I think Tyree Wilson is solid. I think he's top 10 talent in this year's draft. He's not. I do not put him ahead of Will Anderson. Maybe Will Anderson had a slightly above average type combine, didn't test like an alien. The tape's there. He's as good of an edge rusher as I've seen against SEC competition at Alabama. You're going to be like, oh, well, he didn't have the best year last year. Because he got like double and triple teamed all the time. He is a truly outstanding edge rusher. And I think building off of last year's outstanding draft from Seattle, Pete Carroll's going to be like, oh, this guy's just falling into our lap at pick 5. Absolute slam dunk. So Will Anderson to Seattle. That is the fit. We have Detroit at pick 6. They're going to get the corner that stood out the most at the Combine right now and has the least questions coming up from the Combine weekend in Christian Gonzalez. Height, weight, speed, ticked off all the boxes. For me, it's really been between him and Devin Witherspoon who is going to be the first corner off the board. And because we at least have the athletic testing to match up with the tape right now, I feel a little bit more comfortable having Christian Gonzalez go here at 6 at Detroit, who desperately need to continue to retool and reinvigorate that secondary. Arizona is up at pick 7. I'm going to have them get Tyree Wilson, edge rusher out of Texas Tech. Some people have even had Tyree Wilson going at 3 if they stayed put. This way here, they get a lot more draft assets and still get a guy that would be considered a top trade target, or top just non-trade target for them in the draft. Tyree Wilson, elite speed. He's kind of the Travon Walker, if you will, of the draft. Don't know he's necessarily the same S-tier type of athlete, but from a length, from a size, from a build, and he's probably at least an A-tier type athlete. Didn't test at the Combine. That's how you retool. There's your guy that you can kind of plug and play in J.J. Watt's spot on that defensive line. Atlanta is up at pick 8. Wasn't in love with this one, but we still got some combine hype. I'm going to have them get Nolan Smith out of Georgia. I think you look at how that defense is built. They showed last year that they like athletes. They like athletes at edge rusher. Arnold Ebiketie, D'Angelo Malone. Those are guys that tested very, very well. No edge tested better than Nolan Smith. There's going to be a little bit of a learning curve. He's more of a run defender than he is right now than a pass rusher, which is fine because anytime you have an athlete like that, you're going to gamble on the traits that he can put it all together as a pass rusher. Mr. 444, the elite athleticism. There's going to be a little bit of fan service here as well, getting the Georgia Bulldog back in Atlanta. So, I was looking at the edges. Myles Murphy could go here. Wouldn't be a lot of complaints. Myles Murphy in 2021 for Clemson looks a lot better than what he did at 2022. Pretty much everyone took a step back on that Clemson defense. But if you go look at 2022, Myles Murphy looked better. Brian Breezy looked better. Trenton Simpson looked better. So, you could go there, but I think with the hype of the combine, with the tendency Atlanta has shown at the edge rusher spot, I think Nolan Smith or Van Ness right now. Even then, Myles Murphy didn't test, but still, I'm imagining there's going to be some pretty big numbers coming out of Clemson's pro day for him. But right now, we'll go with the little hot, trendy name coming out from the combine, Nolan Smith. Carolina at pick 9 didn't have to trade up, and they're going to be able to select a quarterback here, getting Will Levis, who he didn't have the same combine that C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson had, but he still had a pretty good combine. I think you would say out of the quarterbacks that actually tested and threw at the combine, he was third, and it was like, he looked like a first-rounder, best release in the draft class, right there with Anthony Richardson for arm strength, arm talent, if you will, in the draft class, and Carolina's going to get a quarterback, and that's your guy. And the fact that you didn't have to give any assets to move up, he kind of fell into your lap. Yes, you kind of got who was left over, I guess, by sitting there at 9. Maybe they will be aggressive to try to trade up for an Anthony Richardson or try to trade up for a C.J. Stroud. But I think given what it would cost you, given the fact that, Colts paid 3 firsts, a first, second, and third from the Raiders, you're trading a lot of, Will Levis at 9 in comparison to what you had to give up for those guys. There's value there. There's like a cost difference that makes this maybe better value than what those other teams got those other top quarterbacks at. So Will Levis goes to Carolina. You get yourselves a new quarterback. Now it is time for my Philadelphia Eagles. All right. So this is where I went where I would do. Howie Roseman at this point, I'm going to tell you right now. This is how the board came through. Howie Roseman at 10, 80%. He's got to either get Paris Johnson, which if Lane Johnson's only coming back for 1 year, sure, right? He's going to look at the D-line, Breezy, Cansey. He's going to look at the edge rushes, Myles Murphy. It's going to be probably one of those guys. But I said this mock draft is me drafting for these teams. It's not going to happen. Okay, there's a chance it happens. There's a chance that he's a top player, best player available. Howie Roseman understands that this is an offensive league. You can never have enough offensive weapons. You got to understand at this point, Bijan Robinson is going to make more of an impact on a team that is having a lot of roster turnover than Paris Johnson is being a success for Lane Johnson, than Myles Murphy would be as edge 3 or 4, or Van Ness would be as edge 3 or 4. And, you still got another first-round pick to go after one of these traditional spots. You look at the corners. I love Devin Witherspoon as a player. Joey Porter Jr. Not one of those guys would make as big of an impact for the Philadelphia Eagles as Bijan Robinson. And I'm not going to argue that this is the best pick for Philadelphia. I'm not going to argue this is the smartest pick for Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a roster that historically has been built by we pay our offensive line, and then you kind of just go with a no-name running back squad because our offensive line will create holes, and that's why you've seen success with, the Boston Scots and, Kenny Gainwell. Yes, might not be the smart, but given how the board has fallen, I think for Philadelphia, my process would be, are we going to trade up to get Will Anderson or Jalen Carter? No? Okay. So who else is going to make as big of an impact? Who's going to help this team get back to the Super Bowl next year? Who's going to help this team with the mass amount of money that we're going to pay Jalen Hurts, and we're not going to be able to keep 75, 80% of our free agents? Who's going to help us get back to the Super Bowl? That is my logic in this mock draft. Not who is the best value, who's going to be the best pick 3-4 years from now. There's as many reasons to want Bijan Robinson at 10 as there is to say that's not the smart pick. And I'm going to 100% right out in front. Jump in front of that bus and admit it. This is not also, I'd be incredibly shocked if this happens. I'd lose my mind because Bijan Robinson is going to come. I'd say Bijan Robinson, without ever playing a snap in the NFL, in the Eagles offense, with the RPOs with Jalen Hurts and the offensive line, assuming Jason Kelce comes back, and then at right guard, we're going to put Cam Jurgens there. He's going to walk in before he even play as a top 10 running back in the NFL. And he's with opportunity cost to be a top 5 running back. A top 5 running back on a rookie contract for the next 5 years. You know, it's just, there's as many pros as cons. If there's a bunch of people saying that is a stupid pick, I also admit that this is a stupid pick. But you also have to admit this is a fun pick, and it's a mock draft. So we're having a little bit of fun here. And if I was doing a mock draft where I was trying to predict what the teams were going to do, I'd probably go Myles Murphy. We're going to Howie Roseman Bills during the trenches. And I would say just no one's going to like the idea of Philadelphia going tackle here. But if Jeff Stoutland co-signs on any offensive lineman in the first round, who the fuck are we to complain? Moving on to pick 11, we have Tennessee. And they're getting, in my opinion, he was so impressive. The best tackle. Skoronski's kind of been there, but I think Paris Johnson has kind of ran away a little bit for the top tackle in this year's draft class. It's just outstanding. Everything you need. Prototypical franchise tackle. And with the Titans moving on from Taylor Lewan, there's an easy plug-and-play fit right there. Houston at pick 12. I'm going to have them go out and get Myles Murphy. Got to go on the pedigree. Again, I think after his pro day, if he tested his pro day and tests as expected as his pro day, it's not going to be a little bit of a hot take that he goes where he goes. But between him and Van Ness, easy pick there for the Texans to get some pass rush help, which is something I think they're going to try to target. The Jets at 13, I'm going to have them get Peter Skoronski, tackle. Jets definitely need some tackle. Big time uncertainty with Mekhi Becton, what's going on there. So, I mean, even if Becton comes back, you could still definitely use another tackle. Someone like Skoronski, either tackle and or guard. You'd hope he wouldn't be guard because, you got AVT and you spend a premium on that. But I think building the offensive line, Joe Douglas knows. Joe Douglas goes to the Howie Roseman school. He saw Howie Roseman break the trend of going running back and not going through the trenches. And he's like, oh, well, at least some guy is there for us. And that's what he does here with Skoronski. But Jets are the first team out of all these teams where I'm like, given this board, I would love to hear what Jet fans would do. Would you consider? You probably wouldn't go corner. I don't think you'd go wide receiver. Brian Branch at safety. Would you go wide receiver? Would you go D-line? Tight end? Grab one of these freak tight ends potentially. I would love to hear what Jet. That's just one where it's just like I know they kind of are hurting for tackle a little bit. We want tackle. Speaking of tackles, at 14, the Patriots need a tackle, and I'm going to have them get Broderick Jones, the tackle from Georgia. Another very impressive tackle from the Combine weekend, and he's plug and play. He's going to be a day one starter for them. Green Bay, I mean, outside of that, you could go wide receiver, but I think the more likely Bill Belichick move, and what I was doing, given the depth at wide receiver, maybe the best value, the wide receiver value is not particularly there in the first round, but I think second, third round, that's where the Patriots can do their damage, getting more weapons for Mac Jones in that offense. Green Bay at pick 15, I've had them go with this last couple mocks. Tight end is like, you look around, like what their biggest need is, tight end. I think they go Brian Branch, a versatile defensive back. Tested with the corners at the Combine, but I think with how he tested, he's going to be more in line with that safety, but really similar game to what Minkah Fitzpatrick brings. And I think if you're Green Bay and you can add a guy that is Minkah Fitzpatrick as his ceiling, if he can reach the potential of Minkah Fitzpatrick, that is going to be a massive get for that secondary. Commanders at 16, I'm going to have them get Devin Witherspoon. Out of all the corners of this class, my favorite tape is Devin Witherspoon. Scrappy, got that dog in him. Don't know if he's going to test at Illinois' Pro Day. I guess he had something with a hammy, but he will work out at some point. I think he was saying on the sidelines, if not, he'll do like his own individual workout day. But really good value there for Washington. I think there is still a chance. There's still a reality where he is the first corner off the board in this year's draft. So for him falling down to 16 to the Commanders, who need some corner help, that is great value. Pittsburgh reunites with a Porter, and we're going to have them go in the secondary and get Joey Porter Jr. I could go tackle here. I don't really necessarily would have Anton Harrison here. I think my next two first rounders would be either DeJuan Jones or Darnell Wright. But given the value there at corner, given that's a win for the fan base, I think, getting Joey Porter Jr., and it's a big position to need. It's kind of a little bit of a layup there. Tested very well at the Combine. Very good profile. 6'2", super long, very fluid. Gone up against some great competition in college. He's very much a first-round corner. Detroit at 18. I'm going to have them get some edge help here in Lucas Van Ness out of Iowa. Tested really well as some of the nice bull rush in this year's draft class. There's a nice pass rush option there for Dan Campbell on the defense. Doubling up. Getting an edge. Getting a corner. There last year, somehow. I don't want to be disrespectful, but somehow the Detroit Lions had a very good offense last year, and they didn't have their first-round pick wide receiver, Jameson Williams, for most of it. So, like, you always got to act like Jameson Williams is going to be another first-round pick this offseason. So, it's like you got Jameson Williams now at offense. You get a new edge rusher that can play on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson. And, you got James Houston, who was great value last year. Get a good rotation down there, and then Christian Gonzalez can start at corner. I think that would be an outstanding draft for Detroit, not to pat myself on the back. Tampa Bay at 19. I'm going to have them go with big-time winner from a testing standpoint, Deonte Banks out of Maryland. He was the guy going into this weekend that I didn't see the most of. I wasn't overly familiar. I knew he was a good athlete, knew a lot of smart draft content. People were having him as a first-rounder. Didn't see enough of him, but after going to the combine and probably being, after Christian Gonzalez, like the freakiest testing corner with legit traits, 6 feet, 6'1", great outside, I think you're going to fall in love. Some teams going to fall in love with him as a corner two, as a rookie. And I think Tampa Bay needs to retool that secondary a little bit, is going to be interested. I would say my preference, though, for Tampa would be tackle. I think you got to get a new left tackle. But given the value here, given the fact that there's still some legit first-round corners, not guys you need to make the argument for, I decided to go in the secondary. But I would say my priority for Tampa is getting a new left tackle. Move on from Donovan Smith, man. He's absolute ass. Pick 20. We have the Seattle Seahawks at 20, and I'm going to have them select Kalijah Cansey, defensive tackle out of Pittsburgh. Here's why. That franchise guy made the comp, and that's what I see him in the NFL. Full credit to him, Michael Bennett. And I think, who else is going to see that? Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll's going to make this guy can be my next Michael Bennett. Undersized interior pass rusher. You can play him a whole bunch of different spots on that defensive line, and it's just complete and utter revival of that front seven for Seattle. Last year, it felt like they did a lot of work on the back end of that defense, right? They did a lot of work on the offensive line. You still have your wide receivers. You still have your skill position places. You're going Geno Smith. You got your running back. That defensive line double dip. You get Will Anderson as a pass rusher. You get Kalijah Cansey in the inside. And now you're going to have two of the most hyped young defensive players for getting after the quarterback from this year's draft class. I think, why not? Right? You hit on Kobe Bryant. You hit on Tariq Woolen. Why not double dip? I would love to hear what Seahawks. Would you double dip on the defensive line? Is it too rich? Would you want to maybe diversify how you invest your 2 first-round picks? I think if I'm Seattle, I get the best edge rusher in the class, and I get a guy that has a chance to be Michael Bennett 2.0. Next up, we have the Chargers at 21. This one here, I kind of went off a little bit. I originally have had, I think my last 2 mock drafts, had them getting Quentin Johnston at a TCU. But I go a little bit different because they're moving on from Gerald Everett. They have a massive hole at tight end. I'm going to have them get my new tight end 1. He was tight end 2. And then I decided, you know what? This whole draft game is about what can you do for me now, but what are you going to do for me year 2, year 3? What's your and Darnell Washington at 6'7", tested incredibly well, already the best blocking tight end in the class, has untapped, and I don't even know what his ceiling is going to be as a receiver. I think this is like your Hail Mary type. You're the Chargers. You don't really have any true needs. Right now, wide receiver's been a popular pick, but their GM already came up last I saw that they have no intention of getting rid of Keenan Allen. So assuming you have Keenan Allen coming back, you have Mike Williams coming back, obviously the availability is a big concern, and you could absolutely grab one of these wide receivers. But that's not necessarily how the NFL roster is built. Right? You got Jordan Palmer there, Canadian, love seeing that. They have depth at wide receiver. You got to get that. You just got to hope for that role if they stay healthy. What don't they have? They don't have a guy that's going to be able to act as a 6 offensive lineman who's going to be uncoverable in the red zone and whose ceiling as just a complete tight end is ridiculously high. I think you have to say right after Anthony Richardson at quarterback, going into ceilings, you might have to make the argument Darnell Washington has the second highest ceiling in this year's draft class if he can put it all together. And I think that might be enough of a carrot that the Chargers would be able to bite on there at 21. Would love to hear what you guys think about that one. But I think that, moving on from Gerald Everett, there's going to be a hole there at tight end. And then imagine him and Parham. 2 6'7" tight ends for Justin Herbert. Just good luck. If they keep going for it on fourth downs, just throw it up to one of those guys. Maybe you'll actually convert on them more often than not. Baltimore at pick 22. I'm going to have to get my wide receiver 1. And that is Jackson Smith-NJIGBA out of Ohio State. That's just what the Ravens do. They always get the best value picks. They always, regardless of where they're picking, they end up getting, like last year, right? They got leapfrog for Jordan Davis. It seemed like that was a foregone conclusion. Oh, they just got, the top safety in the draft still fell to their lap, and he was the best graded safety last year. So that's just kind of what they do. And they wait here at 22, need wide receiver, and just the best wide receiver in a kind of weak top end for a positional group. Falls into that. Jackson Smith-NJIGBA, and hopefully that is accompanied by a happy, paid Lamar Jackson. Minnesota at 23. Had them go here the last mock draft. Still kind of the same. There are more options, I think. I think you can see Smith, Ringo, or Forbes go here in the first round. But I'm going to go Keely Ringo. Someone's going to gamble on the height, weight, speed traits of Keely Ringo. Needed to test very well because the tape was not great, particularly down the stretch for Georgia. He was getting picked on, but he's 6'2", almost 210 pounds, and is an S-tier athlete. Someone's going to gamble on the traits so they can develop him and get his best football ahead of him, and it'll be Minnesota. He's going to the first round, and Vikings have a desperate need at corner. Jacksonville at 24. I actually thought maybe going corner. They just, I believe, Shaq Griffin got released, right? Corner? Griffin? That was his brother Shaquem, yeah. So they could be in for corner. I thought about it, but I don't know what they're doing there. I don't know what their plan was. So I'm going to have them go Brian Brzee. I think D-tackle is a spot that if I was Jacksonville, I would continue just to invest in. And Brzee tested very well. He needed to. The tape was not particularly good. He went through a lot of stuff this year at Clemson. Had to go out and show it at the Combine. That's exactly what he did, which I think not so much like, 2-3 months ago, he was top 10 pick, but I still think 24 is probably a more appropriate range for him to go, but he is a very high-ceiling defensive lineman there for the Jags. 25, we have the New York Giants, and I'm going to have them get another legitimate first-round wide receiver in Jordan Addison. Depending on who you're listening to, might still be wide receiver 1. Very versatile. I think outside-inside versatility. Route running is crisp. Hands are excellent. And it's just, I think wide receiver is a big-time need for the Giants. Get some weapons there for your new $45 million quarterback in Daniel. I love that. Congratulations on paying Daniel Jones whenever that happens. Cowboys up at 26. I'm going to have them go wide receiver and get Quentin Johnson. There's a chance he's Kevin White. There's also a chance that, he's not Kevin White. He's 6'2" and runs probably low 4.4s, high 4.3s, and it puts a lot less pressure on CeeDee Lamb to be the guy. I don't know why Dallas is so enamored with, adding another wide receiver, but this is more so fan service here. They want a wide receiver. They want another playmaker. There you go. Got you a first-round wide receiver. Got you a guy with a lot of traits, high ceiling, but also as a Philadelphia Eagle fan, give you a guy that has a high bust chance as well. Buffalo at pick 27. I'm going to go with Cyrus Torrance. This was probably one of the tougher picks just because I don't know where Buffalo would go here. I was like, maybe they go Gibbs, especially after he tested well. But, are you ready to give up on James Cook? Enough so that you're going to burn a first-round pick to just give up on James Cook, essentially, for a similar style of running back. I was uncertain about that. Thought you could go tackle, potentially. Dewan Jones started all right, but you're going to give up on the right tackle you got there, Northern Iowa, already. I was like, okay, not too sure on that. You definitely need guard help, and Osiris Torrance is the first-round guard, the top guard in this year's draft class. Are you going to go safety? Replace Jordan Poyer? Is there a guy in the first round here that can replace you? I just felt like best value at this point. When in doubt, just go with the safe pick of a legit stud on the interior of the offensive line, and that's what we did there with Torrance. But, not a slam dunk pick, not in love with this pick. Would love to hear what you would do if you were a Bills fan here. Pick 28, we have the Cincinnati Bengals, and I'm going to have them get Darnell Wright, the tackle from Tennessee. Very good combine, tested very well, looked very smooth in the drills. Former 5-star recruit. He's legit. He's very much legit, and I think the Bengals, you definitely saw, while they prioritized the offensive line last year, did not work out when it mattered. So let's continue to go back that well until you can properly protect Joe Burrow. Saints got themselves a new quarterback in Derek Carr, and I'm going to have them go D-tackle here and get the number one freak from Bruce Feldman's freak list. Unfortunately, didn't test outside of putting up 34 reps on the bench press, which was the tops at the Combine, and that is Mozzie Smith, the D-tackle from Michigan. You get a guy, more of a nose tackle, but for how athletic he is, he's like the closest thing, I guess, to, we'd assume, because obviously he did put pen to paper with his testing, like Jordan Davis style defensive linemen in this year's draft class, and I think the Saints definitely need to retool there on the inside of the defensive line. Philadelphia is back at 30 after shocking the world going running back. And again, Howie Roseman, they're going to look at D-line. I don't know. They're going to look at edge. I think for some reason, I just get a feeling that they're going to draft Foskey. They're going to be really interested. I'm not over the moon, but he's a solid pick. You could go tackle and just get DeJuan Jones, freak size. Again, if Stout co-signs this one, I'm not going to be overly critical. But for me, you still need corner. Corner is a big-time need for Philly. So I'm going to pair. On one side, you have Slay out of Mississippi State. I'm going to go Emmanuel Forbes on the other side. Definitely some size concerns. He's like 180 pounds, but he balled out at the combine. 4.35, the most proven ball hawk in this entire draft class. He pretty much got 6 picks and like 3 pick sixes every single year. All 3 years that he was a starter at Mississippi State. So we could use more pick sixes. We could use more of a ball hawk in this secondary. And then, if we were doing a second round mock draft, that's where we definitely would go and hammer home some defensive line picks here for Philadelphia. So this is my mock draft. I already know. If you told me Philly did not go on the trenches for both of their first round picks, I'm going to say that didn't happen. But that's what we did here today. We had a little bit of fun, get some big time players at big time needs. And then finish out the first round with the Kansas City Chiefs at pick 31. Reports have come out that they're not going to tag Orlando Brown. So they'll get Orlando Brown clone in DeJuan Jones. Get rid of one unathletic, gigantic tackle that made it work and played at a very high level for another unathletic but gigantic tackle that I think will be able to make it work at the next level. DeJuan Jones, 6'8", largest wingspan ever measured, I believe, at the combine or at least at the Senior Bowl. And I think he's a plug-and-play replacement for Orlando Brown. Might not be able to play at that level right away. Gotta have to get some size, get his get strength and conditioning camp at the next level. But I think for your Kansas City, that's how you replace it. That's how you keep with your. Now it's reasonable, but you got the salary cap and how the Kansas City Chiefs are designed. They're going to have to hit on a lot of these picks. They're going to have to find like-for-like replacements because they're not going to be able to pay the top-tier money for Orlando Brown because you have that money in Patrick Mahomes. So how you keep that whole thing going on that offensive line in Kansas City is a great track record. Trey Smith, Creed Humphrey of drafting offensive linemen that can just plug and play right away. That's what I get here out of DeJuan Jones. So there you go, guys. That is my mock draft coming out from the 2023 Combine. Maybe some surprise players slipping out of the first round. Gibbs could go first round. Mayer, Kincaid. I mean, there's a lot of people in the scouting committee think there's going to be a lot of tight ends going first. I just don't necessarily think that's a huge need for a lot of teams. But Michael Mayer, Dalton Kincaid in particular, falling out of the first round could be surprising. I think you could say, Ojulari, Foskey could be first rounders. Some guys, Adebaware, who freakishly tested at the combine. Could he sneak into the first round? No linebackers going first round. Sanders, Trenton Simpson, Jack Campbell, maybe. I think that's more so going to be value. Cam Smith is absolutely a first round talent. DJ Turner ran the fastest 40. Maybe someone will fall in love with that. Julius Brents, Riley Moss showed off elite traits at the combine. But I definitely think Cam Smith is good enough to go in the first round. Just didn't really fall that way. No first round safeties after Brian Branch. Could that potentially change? But I think generally did a pretty good job. But I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comment section below. And maybe next week we'll kind of revisit this a little bit from some of the feedback and do a 2-round mock draft because it's mock draft season, man. We're ready. We're getting going here. So that will do it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. As always, your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button if you enjoyed. On my Patreon, I will be dropping my draft rankings starting probably Wednesday, Thursday is the day that I'm targeting, and I'll be dropping my quarterback rankings. So it's a great way to go above and beyond and support my channel and just get a little bit more of my own opinions on this year's draft. And that'll do it for me today, guys. I'm going to try my best to get out a Saints Derek Carr rebuild to you guys tomorrow. So I'll see you guys then. And until next time, it's your boy C4 saying peace out. Love you. Have a good one.